really amazing how many people are here and how many qualifications, how many skills and how many nationalities.
We're here for the first time and we've already talked to a lot of people, and organization is great. Everyone's very friendly.
I was very positively surprised that so many visitors came here to the fair to get in contact with us as employer.
It's great. I love it. I got to meet a lot of people from all around the world. The food is great and the venue is amazing. Everyone's so nice.
The environment is relaxed, like there's no that kind of like afraid to approach people and to engage in a conversation.
It's very good, it's very well organized, and I've met a lot of interesting people.
I had a great experience. I was able to meet so many interesting people. You can really see that they are looking for improvements on their careers, and we are really looking forward to the opportunity of meeting some of them back in our office.
A lot of people who were very interested in details, and I like to answer detailed questions and are not only scratching on the surface, so that was pretty cool.
I'm very surprised by the quality of the potential candidates. They're all very interested, very motivated, and it's very positive.
I think it's great. It's very nice. There's a lot more people than I expected, but I'm having great conversations with everybody, and it's amazing to get to know that many people at once.
I was at the Tech Jobs Fair in Berlin, and I love coming out here. You get to meet so many different faces, and I think people come from all over the world just to get to not only know your company, but just what's happening going on in Vienna, and just to see this beautiful, beautiful city.
It's as enriching for me as a participant as it is for the visitors. Very high level, very ambitious people here today. It's fantastic.
I've literally met so many incredible people. I never thought I could network with so many people. I think I've added another 300 people on LinkedIn just being here today, it feels like. I think it's one of the best job fairs I've ever been to.
Hello everyone, it's my pleasure to welcome you all to Get Hired in UK and Ireland, an exciting webinar hosted by Tech Jobs Fair. I am Tripta Sinha and I'm thrilled to be here on behalf of the entire team of Tech Jobs Fair. We appreciate you for joining us for what promises to be an insightful and engaging session. A big thank you to all of our viewers for being a part of it, because your participation is what makes these sessions truly valuable. So let's dive in and get started by welcoming Ms. Bindu Kalwadia, Head of Business and Growth at Tech Jobs Fair, to address the gathering. Hello, Bindu. How are you doing today?
Hi, Tripti. I'm doing well. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
How about you?
I'm good. Thank you so much. Let's not waste our time, and you can tell us and take us through what's the agenda of this webinar and what our attendees can expect out of it. Yeah,
sure. Why not? Okay. Hello, everyone. Good day. And it's my absolute pleasure to welcome you all to today's events, proudly hosted by our own brand, Tech Jobs Fair, a global platform connecting talent with opportunity. Whether you are a job seeker, a recruiter, or an industry leader, we are thrilled to have you here with us. My name is Bindu Kalwadia, and I'm a part of Tech Jobs Fair. And here today, I'm gladly welcome you all. I'd like to introduce you Tech Jobs Fair. Tech Jobs Fair has been the forefront of bridging the gap between companies and top professionals, fostering a dynamic job market that thrives on innovation and inclusivity and definitely sustainability. A technology continues to evolve, and AI is reshaping the workforce, creating a new opportunity while redefining skills that employers seek, right? At the same time, sustainability is becoming a key focus nowadays. We all agree, right? Why not? So, with companies prioritizing green practice, ethical work environment, and sustainable career growth also. At Tech Job Fair, we believe in supporting both businesses and professionals, talents in adapting to this changing landscape. Our mission is not just about job placement; it's about empowering individuals, organizing with the right resources and insights, and connecting, the thrives in the digital era. So, in short, it's all about these sessions. Tech talks are really, to help you guys in your career enhancement journey. Today, we are honored to have an incredible lineup of speakers joining us for this event and sessions. These experts will share their valuable insights on AI driven job trends, sustainability in the workspace, and how companies are adapting to the future of work, right? Their expertise will provide you with a fresh perspective because they are industry leaders, they are in the market, what are the changes are happening, how the past experience has been with us, and now what are the next level has reached. So I'm sure their presence will guide you, help you, and in your career journey. So today's event is more than just a series of sessions. It's a platform for learning and networking, career advancement. We encourage you to engage with our speakers, participating in the discussions via chat and interactions. Connect with the recruiters who are actively looking for talents like you. So once again, thank you so much for being here, and let's make this event an inspiring and productive sessions for every one of you joining here. Everyone, enjoy the event and networking. Yes,
Well,
Tripti.
thank you so much for amazing, startup and how you actually told us what's going to happen or what they can expect and all of that. So yes, thank you so much, Binder. It was lovely having you, and I hope we can get the webinar started.
Sure, thank you. Thank you so much, Tripti. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Well, guys, you heard her. So, before we begin the speaking sessions, I want to let you know that our expert speakers will share their key hiring insights for the UK and Ireland job market, offering strategies and tips to help you land your next opportunity, whether you're just starting out or leveling up your career. Well, I encourage you all to make the most of this webinar. Please feel free to drop your questions in the comment section. And yeah, I believe you're all set for the speaking session marathon. So sit back, get comfortable, and enjoy these amazing sessions lined up for you all. Please join me in extending a warm welcome to our very first speaker, Miss Sarah Robinson. She is a renowned career coach specializing in career transitions, interview coaching, leadership performance, and many more. She is a master accredited strengths profile practitioner and helps professionals unlock their potential for career and personal success. Hello, Sarah. How are you doing today?
I'm very well. Thank you ever so much for inviting me.
Yes, it's a pleasure to have you join us today. And yes, I'm like super excited to listen to your insights and go through your sessions. So don't want to waste any time of yours, and the stage is all yours.
Brilliant. So if you're happy to share my slides. So very warm welcome. My name's Sarah. I am the director and founder of Sarah Robinson Coaching. And I've worked in the area of career transition for nearly 30 years now. So I'm based in the UK, and I primarily work with anyone who is wanting to experience any sort of career change, job search strategy. I do a lot of application reviews and interview coaching and support, all the way through to leadership development. So as a master accredited strengths profile coach, I regularly work with individuals and teams to help them better understand their strengths and how that can really impact their performance in the workplace. So the main focus of my talk today is the language of strengths. How do you communicate your value in the tech recruitment process? So really what I want to just briefly introduce is the key difference and the subtle difference between skills and strengths. What is strengths-based language and why it matters? How do you identify some of the unique strengths that you have, and how do you apply your strengths during the recruitment process? So a lot of the people that I work with really struggle with understanding how to sell themselves, how to actually understand what their strengths are, what they're good at, what they get energy from, and how to communicate that really effectively in any of the recruitment process. So one of the ways that I describe this really simply is the difference. So skills are the things that you learn to be good at throughout your whole education, your working life. You learn to be good at doing a lot of different things. But not everything energizes you. Not everything you'll be enjoying and sort of really sort of thriving in that environment. But if you contrast that with strengths, these are the things that you're really good at and successful in, but you get energy and enjoyment from. And that's the difference, is that when you start talking and communicating about what you're competent in, what you're good at, you don't always get the energy, you don't always get the enthusiasm and the personality that shares and that shows. And because a lot of people don't necessarily understand what their strengths are, they just know there's a list of skills, a list of competencies on their CV, they often struggle on how to communicate that. So when I talk about the language of strengths, this is what I mean. So it's not just about saying I'm good at something, I'm good at communicating, or I'm effective at stakeholder relationships. What we're trying to do is use some of the words and the language that create more energy. So you'll use basically situations such as, I thrive in this sort of environment. I'm really energized and excited about the prospect of working with new colleagues. I'm really motivated in seeing my team members really thrive and grow in the sort of their career. I'm curious by, I take pride in. So what happens when you start noticing your strengths? This is, you start using a lot more positive language. You start to raise the energy and the enthusiasm of your answers. And essentially, you're much more authentic and true to yourself. So we're not trying to say we're passionate about everything, I'm fabulous, darling. We're not trying to be someone you're not. What we're trying to do is just recognize that it's not just about sharing what you're good at and what you're competent in. We need to show some more personality and energy in the language that we use. So some of the strategies that you might want to use to discover your strengths are as follows. So all of these are free, but some of them you might be used to doing already, but maybe you could dial some of these up a little bit more. So one of the first ones is around, how do you go about seeking feedback and ideas from colleagues? So it could be your line managers, it could be your peers, it may be clients, friends, and it's really important to get a different perspective. So asking them, where do you think I add value? What do you really appreciate about the work that I do? What types of problems do I solve and it comes really easy to me and you really like the way I approach it? What are my areas of expertise in your opinion? So actually getting another person's viewpoint can be really helpful to try and get a sense of what they appreciate and your strengths. Also, it's important to continuously collate positive feedback. So whether that's performance or appraisal reviews, client testimonials, thank you emails, that could be anything along the lines of having a folder of resources that you keep track of, acknowledgements of where you've gone above and beyond. But it's really important to keep track of the successes and the stories you have and what people have really appreciated about what you've contributed. The QR code that I've listed on screen, it takes you to my free blog that's through my website, and it's 25 powerful questions to discover your strengths and talents. So again, sometimes if you're struggling to know not just what you're competent in, but where you get your energy and enjoyment from and how that can align to different roles and opportunities you're targeting, we need some prompts, we need some coaching questions to help nudge us with that. So it could be about what personal traits would you really acknowledge around the various achievements that you've done? What have you taken pride in? What really energizes you? Think about things when you have felt really challenged and uncomfortable. What strengths has really helped support you and get you through those tough times? So the blog is a really short, impactful way to get lots of different ideas about how to tease that out. But I really wanted to spend a few moments just explaining a little bit more about the online psychometric assessment, the strengths profile. So some of you may have heard of this. You might have heard of a number of different strengths profiling tools. This one is by an organization called strengthsprofile.com, and it looks at 60 different strengths. So often you might just think, where on earth do I start with 60 different strengths with it? But this is the beauty of this sort of report. So it's an online assessment, takes around 15-20 minutes to complete, and it produces a really detailed and intuitive report around each of these different 4 categories. So it maps the results of your questionnaire to these strengths. So if you are curious about the range and breadth of strengths and how they fit into these categories, it's going to start to give you the language, the vocabulary, the insight into how you can start articulating and communicating this as part of your recruitment. So it looks at your realized strengths. So these are the things that you're really good at, you get a lot of energy and enjoyment from, and you're doing right now. It looks at your learned behaviors. So these are the things that you've learned to be good and successful in and are probably scattered throughout your CV, but they don't always give you the energy. And sometimes with some of the client profiles that I work with, they may have 40, 50 of their strengths are actually within learned behaviors. And often that indicates that an individual is really experienced, has learned a lot of different things, but they may be getting a little bit bored, restless, maybe burnt out because they're not getting the same energy and enjoyment that they may have done previously. It also looks from a report at weaknesses. So this is just recognizing there are some things we're not great at, we don't particularly enjoy or love, and we would rather avoid and just focus more on the things that we do enjoy. The only reason to really proactively address weaknesses is that if it directly affects your ability to be competent in doing a particular role. And then the final part is all about the potential. So unrealized strengths are the things that you are really good at, really successful in, get a lot of enjoyment and fulfillment from, but maybe you've not had the chance to do more with them. So what are the strengths that you would like to dial up, do a little bit more? How does that link in with the types of jobs that you may be applying for? So if you're applying for roles where you want to dial these strengths up, you want to be doing things that better engage you, you feel that you're going to get more satisfaction, it's the challenge or the stretch that you need, it will give you a sense of what those realized strengths and unrealized strengths are going to be. So the beauty of this sort of profile is that I use it with a whole range of clients, from making decisions about what steps they want to take in their career, the type of career and role that they would thrive in, but also from an interview coaching perspective. It's giving them a little bit more prompt and language about skill sets and the strengths that they can use. And they have very different profile reports. So you can have an introductory one that just looks at the highlight and the top 7 in each of these areas. The expert report, which I'll also be referring you to a free download shortly, is looking at all 60 strengths mapped out in that report. And there is also a leadership strengths profile. So for those of you who are going for leadership opportunities at all different sort of seniority levels, this is a really useful report that looks at all 60 strengths, but it looks at it from a leadership lens and your style and way of leading others. Okay. So the other thing to consider is, again, from recruitment, you will have technical interviews, you'll have competency-based interviews, but strengths-based interviews are becoming more and more common across many UK-based businesses. I've listed some of the logos of some of those prominent UK-based organisations that do this. And it's just to be mindful of how this might be slightly different from some of the other interview experiences you might have. So what they're involved is really questions that you can't always prepare for, are not necessarily giving full detailed examples of everything, so not always using the STAR technique, but it's really giving you a chance to showcase what you love to do. When you perform your best, how does it align with the role? So again, thinking back to that strengths-based language, when you start to look at the job description, the company's values, in what way do you thrive in those skill areas? In what way do you really enjoy working in that type of environment? So some questions that they may lead in with this is, in what way does this role that you've applied for play to your strengths? How do you stay motivated? What gives you energy? What is something you're particularly proud of? And what did you demonstrate when doing that? What would a successful day look like for you? How would you know that you feel as though you've achieved something with that? So a lot of this strengths-based interviews, again, it's still about sharing examples, but it's very much around drawing your expertise from whether it's university, hobbies, your current or previous roles. It's really giving you a chance to explore all areas with that. Weaknesses can be discussed, but again, I'm not a big fan of the word weaknesses. I think what you've got to remember is this is about self-awareness, it's about growth, it's where is the opportunity for you to learn a little bit more about how you can add value, where is the stretch and the challenge for yourself. So some of the strengths that are typically assessed in many technology-based roles are as follows. And again, all of this is going to be caveated by the fact that you're going to meet a lot of different organizations who will have their own take on what they expect you to be able to demonstrate. But in technology-focused positions, you're going to be very much looking at being able to dissect really complex problems, complex issues, develop effective solutions, which is really crucial on the analytical thinking side. Employers really value candidates who can think innovatively, creatively, in order to move advancements forward. Being adaptable, being resilient is increasingly common for many applicants now within this fast-moving technology centre. And I think what it's really important to recognise is that being able to collaborate, communicate, show initiative, be really proactive, all of these are very common themes across technology-based roles. But from a strengths point of view, you need to be sharing what do you enjoy about what these roles give you? How have you shone in these? How have you demonstrated that? And FDM Group is a global consultancy who actually recruit a lot of talent within the technology sector and industries. They actually do a lot of strengths-based interview assessment as part of particularly their graduate program, but also throughout their whole scheme. So some of the strengths that they particularly value and they assist their candidates on are some of those 8 themes: so drive, resilience, collaboration, flexibility. So your job as a candidate is to be able to think, how have I demonstrated this, and how do I talk really positively and take pride in how I've demonstrated that. And one of the final points that I really want to touch on here is a particular framework that I use with a lot of clients, particularly around interviews. So how can you answer a question that's based around why you? What can you specifically bring to this role? How does this role play to your strengths? And having a bit of a framework about 3 key points can give you a really useful steer with this. So one of the things is around how do you summarize your experience and expertise? So we're not trying to list everything that's on your CV, because that's not engaging, that's not creating some energy around your answer. So how do you summarize the breadth and range of industries, the roles, the impacts of the projects that you've worked on that's relevant to the role that you're applying for? The second theme is around sharing maybe 2 or 3 key strengths and qualities. So remember, you're looking at the job description and it's identifying what are the things that they're really important to them, whether it's around innovation, creativity, stakeholder engagement, but how do you align that to things that you know differentiates you from other candidates? So we're not just talking about, this is what I'm competent in, I've got a good amount of experience in this, this, and this. You cherry pick the strongest examples that show your key strengths related to that role. And then the third element I'd encourage you to think about in this answer is, what do others really most value about you? So we touched on that a little bit earlier, but again, it's important to get a different perspective. So it could be that other people really value, perhaps your senior leadership team really value that you get results, you get to deliver results, you make things happen. Your peers really appreciate the fact that you're great to brainstorm and bounce ideas off, that you're adaptable, you're creative. Your team may really value and appreciate how supportive you are of their own growth and development. So again, the key thing here for me is not to just summarize and list everything on your CV. There's a nice little story around summarizing your experience, sharing 2 or 3 key strengths, and what others value about you. So it's just a little bit of a flavor around that. But what I would like to really just finish on is that hopefully it's just giving you a bit of a sense of the difference between how we talk about our skills, what we're good at, what we're competent in, what we're successful in is important, and we need examples to showcase that. But also, where do we get our energy from? Have you really thought deeply enough about where we get our enjoyment, our satisfaction, our pride? So if you're interested in some of the strengths profiling that I've referred to in my short talk today, you can download through this QR code a free sample report of the expert strengths profile. So obviously it's not personal to you. It's something that is just giving you a bit of a flavour and a bit of an insight into the level of detail that you'll get on that report. And it might give you a bit of insight into the range and the breadth of the 60 strengths that you'd encounter. If you wanted more information, you're welcome to go to the download, access the free sample report. The strengths profile website also has a huge amount of free information that you can access that gives you a lot of information about thinking about your strengths and how you can build on your weaknesses and improve on those different areas. But thank you ever so much for your time today. I know that's a bit of a whistle-stop tour about strengths and how that can influence on recruitment, but I'm happy to take any questions that any of you may have at the moment.
Hi, Sarah. I'm back. Well, that was an amazing presentation to begin with, begin the speaking sessions with. I really want to thank you for your wonderful insights. And I agree on the fact, how people have to start using their strength to get through some tough interview situations. And we, like the job seekers or the talents, just end up in the interview taking the interviewer through their experience and then not really talking about how they can add value or what makes them stand out, despite of their skills and their experience. So I think that's where the strength plays a huge role. And thank you so much for highlighting that.
You're very, very
Let's take a minute to see if anybody has any questions. Guys, please feel free to drop your questions. Meanwhile, I see I have one question. I'm like, let's see if this is relevant. Do you see the question on the screen?
I do, yeah.
Yeah. So is there a way?
A chance to get a remote job. Okay. So there are obviously a whole range of remote sites, whether that's through LinkedIn, whether that's through a whole range of other resources. And again, that may be something that other colleagues are going to be sharing as part of the webinar today. But it is absolutely possible to secure, there's much more flexibility in how people are working within the technology sector and space at the moment. The main thing really that I'm keen for people to be aware of is how do you, in any position, whether it's hybrid, on-site, whether it's remote, how are you effectively communicating the strengths that you have? And this is where a lot of the coaching support can come into it. But there are some free resources that you can tap into. Yes, there are some resources around the strengths profile that's got a small cost to them. But this is really what we're trying to look at. If you're not getting interviews, and this is something I noticed from a couple of other questions, if you're getting interviews, your applications are working. If you're not getting offers, there's something that needs to be worked on in terms of your interview performance and how you're working with that. So maybe it's looking at what your strategy is in terms of how you're communicating your strengths, your expertise, where you add value, how tailored your applications are in your CV, your cover letter, in your application forms. How are you actually managing that in order to improve your traction and getting interest for interview? If you are going through an interview process, then in what way are you not securing that offer? Are you not necessarily communicating that in the best way? You're not highlighting your enthusiasm and energy. So there's a lot of different complexities to consider with it, but hopefully thinking about it from a lens of strengths is a useful starting point for many of you.
All right. I think we've got a couple of questions. Let's see if we can quickly answer them. Yeah.
How do I stand out as a career transition at age 44? Not many recruiters are willing to allow me an interview. Okay, so the older that you are, the more experience and expertise you have. This is what you have to leverage. This is about your unique selling points. So rather than, just assuming that you've got a huge amount of experience, that, why shouldn't they be hiring you? We need to really look carefully about the messaging that you're sending out. How tailored is that? How are you actually acknowledging the skill set and the strengths you have with that? So if you're finding any pivot or career transition really tricky, it's a case of really doing a bit of a sense check about your job search strategy, what you're sending out at the moment in terms of how you're actually reviewing the skill set and offer that you have. Are you clear about how you're selling that as effectively as you could do? So whether you're coming from the outside the EU, it's one of those challenges. I notice that's another question. It's very much around,
Yeah.
it's not always easy in terms of getting visas and approval. You have to be clear about where you add the most value. You can't control what other candidates or applicants have, but is there something about the expertise in terms of language, in terms of international connections, your global experience of working with remote, geographically diverse teams? It's really understanding the differences. Because there is so much competition, you have to be clear about where you can add value that other people can't. But again, part of the subtlety is that you're in a very, very competitive playing field in that space. But you need to understand your own value first.
Yeah, I think thank you so much for answering 2 questions at a time. I love that. And here's one quick another question, but I'm pretty sure we have a whole session lined up for CV. But you can, yeah. Anything from your end, Sarah?
No, I think again, it's being conscious of the difference between one-page resumes, which are very common in certain parts of Europe and the US. In the UK, it's very common to have 2, sometimes 3 pages if you've got a lot more experience and expertise. But there are very different subtleties in different styles and countries of CVs, and that's what you've got to be mindful of. So I think the next speaker is going to be explaining a little bit more about how to approach that.
All right. So, well, that was all. And guys, if you have more questions or if you want to connect with Sarah, please feel free to connect with her. And once again, thank you so much, Sarah, for your time and your expertise. It was a pleasure having you with us today.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, guys, let's dive into another insightful session. So please join me in welcoming Mr. Phil Sterne. He is a personal coach and career specialist. He has worked with top firms like Merlin Entertainments, LSEG, and Amazon. Since 2020, he has guided more than 700 clients, that's a big number, in defining goals, communicating value, and overcoming career challenges. Hello, Phil. Thank you so much for joining us. You're on mute. Can you speak something? Can't really hear you. I can't hear you. Guys, can you hear him? Is it me? Let's see. Let's just wait. I mean, tech glitches has to happen, Can you say something? Is it me or just a second? Okay, meanwhile, guys, I think you can think of questions that you can ask Phil regarding CVs. I think that's very important for you to land, a job in like getting shortlisted or anything. So yeah, you can, meanwhile, you can think of any questions that you would want to ask to Phil regarding resume or CV. Yeah, we're still figuring out. Don't worry. Let me. Can you say something?
Yeah.
Yup. He's here, guys. We can hear him.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Good. So yes. Hi. Sorry about that. Don't know what was happening there. Technical challenges.
No worries. No worries. Hello.
Thank you very much for my for introduction.
Yes, absolutely. Now I don't want to waste any more time, and I think I stalled them enough. So the stage is all yours, and let's hear you.
Okay, great. All right. So shall we bring up my slides? Great. So thanks everybody for your patience there. Yeah, my name's Phil Sterne. I'm going to be taking you through today how to optimize your CV in 6 steps. Obviously, I only got 20 minutes, perhaps a bit less now. So it's going to be a bit of a whistle stop. So I certainly advise you to be taking a few notes because this is going to be a pretty practical session. But before I go through that with you, I just build out a little bit on the introduction. Tripty's kind of gone through it already, really. But yeah, my background's in recruitment. So I came from talent acquisition over the course of 20 odd years, led teams in places like Alton Towers and did projects at London Stock Exchange and at Amazon as well. But I started as a recruitment consultant running a desk in the tech and comms sector lots of years ago, back in the late 90s. But since then, I've had several phases to my career. So I've been employed. I've been a contractor charging day rates. And since 2020, I've been self-employed as a careers coach. So now I help people get the most out of their careers. So whether that's helping them with CV, with their LinkedIn, or helping them actually just work out what they want out of their career at any given point. But where I really specialize is helping people at a careers crossroads who don't quite know what it is they want to do next. So anyway, that's me. Enough of that. Let's get on with what I'm going to take you through today. So the title is 6 ways to improve your CV or optimize your CV. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to separate those 6 ways into 2 chunks. First chunk being content, and the second chunk being format. And the reason why I've separated them is really important, actually, because you could have a CV that's got the great content in it, but if it's really poorly formatted or it's difficult to read for whatever reason, then the hiring manager or the recruiter who's reading it are going to struggle to absorb it and take it in, and therefore you're less likely to get selected for an interview. Okay. Likewise, you could have the most beautifully presented CV, but with rubbish content. So the same applies, right? And in fact, if anything, you're going to be better off having a CV in a poor format with good content than you are the other way around. But what I want to try and help you with today is to get a nice balance of the two. Okay. And I'm also going to be swiping my screen back and forth because I'm going to go into a example CV or a template guidance document that I have, which I'll share a link for later on, and try and show you some of this stuff in an actual document. Okay, so it's not all just theory. So the first thing is about having a clear section at the top of your CV that's signposting the recruiter to what it is you do. Okay, so I'll take you to this example. All right. And this isn't a kind of a fully written CV. This has got notes in it and all the rest of it, but it shows you the kind of shape generally of the CV. What I mean by the top section is this bit that's on the screen, that's kind of above the fold, if you like. And people miss opportunities here to kind of showcase what they're about. So there's some things that you can do, like on here. put the title of the job that I'm applying for after my name. Okay, so immediately as a recruiter, I know exactly what this person is about. And equally, actually, you can put it up here in the actual title of the document. If you put your name and the job title and the company that you're applying to, then it's very specific to that job application. You can save it accordingly in your files. You'll know which CV that you sent, and also just help signpost for the recruiter. Equally, in this here, I've added a few keywords, again, to help with signposting for the recruiter or hiring manager. Starts to kind of help them get a bit of a flavor of what you're about. In this instance, I put IT optimization, process improvement, efficiency, agile and scrum, compliance. And you can change those according to the job that you're applying for, because it's fairly likely that you'll be applying for different jobs that are looking for slightly different things. So just tweak that in your CV. Okay. So then we have a profile section. And in the profile section, where again, we're saying who we are, and we're saying what expertise we've gained and in what markets and how long. And then we start talking about what the actual job is about. So, you know, what is the benefit that you generally deliver? What is it you do? And in the second paragraph, we're talking about the things that you're known for. And this is a different way of saying, I'm great at doing this. Okay. So I'm known for da, 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 and then you can build out a sentence. And finally, in the same section, you can have a short paragraph that says maybe what you enjoy. And I don't mean what you enjoy doing at the weekend or what you get up to in the evening, but what you enjoy doing at work. And again, this is another way of saying that you're good at something, but without saying, I've got great skills in this. It's just a different, slightly more interesting way of positioning yourself. And then you have what I've created these kind of two sections here, core skills and technical skills. And those core skills are about, you know, maybe in some jobs it might require you to have things like SOP writing or operational processes. This is a combination of things from different jobs that I've put together here, right? And some of them aren't relevant to IT, but these are super important because, again, it just helps the recruiter's eyes glance over them and check mental check boxes. You do exactly the same with your technical skills. You know, particularly if you're in a highly technical role, you want to list the specific languages that you are particularly capable in, or, you know, if you're in a different role that isn't sort of hands-on technical, but more leadership, then, you know, you can balance your core skills and technical skills there. Can everybody hear me okay? Because I've just seen a message saying that the sound is cutting off. Tripty, can I just check that you're able to hear me? I'll carry on in the meantime. Yeah, okay, good. All right. So yeah, so that's the kind of what I mean by the top of the CV. All right. So and clearly signposting things. So the next thing about content is about context. Okay, so what do I mean by context? What I mean by context is you have two main opportunities to really nail context in your CV. You have to remember that recruiters are not mind readers, right? They may not, I mean, even on my CV where it says Amazon, I don't assume that everybody knows what Amazon is. Everyone does know what Amazon is, but Amazon's quite a big organization. They might assume that I work for AWS, but I didn't. I worked for the fulfillment arm. So it's really useful just to have a little line, just one line that says what they do, who their market is, and maybe how big they are. And that could be in terms of employees or turnover or both. It sets context and it helps the recruiter start to think, right, okay, I didn't know who that company was before, but now I do. And then the second way of setting context is by adding a line underneath your job. All right. What most people do, what a lot of people do, is kind of list main responsibilities and don't kind of set any context. That's the wrong way of doing it. what you want to be doing is setting just one line of or 2 lines of what the responsibility is in the job. You know, what is it that you're there to do? What's the problem that you're there to solve or were there to solve in your previous jobs? And then let the bullet points talk about what you delivered. Okay. So set the context, let them know who the company is and what you're actually there to do. Okay. So contributions and outcomes. People talk about achievements, all right, but and I know I've got it written as achievement based here, but what I'm really talking about in your bullet points is trying to get across what you've actually delivered. Yeah, what was the outcome of what you did? So what you want to be able to do is write your bullet point and then ask yourself, so what at the end? So what? Why should anybody care if I did this? What's the outcome? What's the payoff? Did you save the business money? Did you reduce the number of process steps? And if you did, what does that mean? Did that save money? Did it make the process easier? Did it improve stakeholder relationships? So get your bullet points starting with verbs in the past tense. So things like increased, decreased, saved, improved, introduced, created, delivered, developed, solved, established. Words, verbs in the past tense, because it's so much more powerful saying something that you did than something that you're responsible for doing. It's so much more powerful to say something that you did as opposed to something that you're responsible for. Okay. Okay, I'm looking at the questions as well. So if you do have any questions, then put them in there. Okay, so they're the 3 main things about content. So let's talk a bit about format. So you can see here, this is a very simple layout. Okay, I've worked with a few people on technical CVs in the past, and what I've seen are a lot of kind of Canva-based CVs, or CVs that have been done with templates, with kind of great big color bars down the side, or pictures of themselves. And in the UK and Ireland, that's not really a thing. We don't have a photograph of ourselves on our CVs. You have that on LinkedIn, right? That's there. You don't need to have it on your CV. But anything that's got like big color bars or columns, that's not a great look. It's actually quite difficult to read as a recruiter. It's quite difficult to read, because then I'm kind of moving from one, I've got a load of stuff on this left hand side, and then I'm trying to read what's going on the right, and it can be just difficult to consume. So what I recommend is keep it clean and traditional, and just let it flow with your profile, the core skills, technical skills, and experience, all the way down to your education, qualifications, any kind of outside interests. Yeah. I may have this down as one of my other points, but sometimes I see, particularly for technical CVs, like these little bars, or like numbers of progress dots. So if someone's amazing at Java, they've got all 6 dots, and if they're kind of less good at Python, they might have 3 dots. That kind of doesn't mean anything, right? Just list them in your skills. If they're really super relevant skills and you're skilled in that area, just put them in your skills here, right? If you need to have another section at the bottom of your CV that says just exactly how proficient you are, then do that. But all those little kind of progress bars, the trouble with them is that they're really subjective. They don't mean anything. What does 6 mean as opposed to 3? Well, I don't know, and a recruiter won't know. So you're better off not having that stuff, and focusing on sort of verbalizing your capability. A couple of questions that I'm seeing here is, I don't know if I can bring that in. Tripty, you may be able to. I don't think I can see it. Here we go. Right, yeah. Yes, they do use applicant tracking systems to review CVs en masse, so a CV does need to get a match rate of 80%. There are no robots. There are no robots. So when you have an applicant tracking system, at the moment at least, they're not clever enough to have loads of AI built into them, right? So if you're getting declined, it's not because AI has done it. It's because you've probably had a killer question as part of the application process that you've not fulfilled the answer to that they need. So it's automatically kicked you out, right? And the point about 80% match. So some recruiters can do that through their systems by matching keywords, which is why having that core skills section and the profile, etc., kind of optimized to the job advert. Are outside interests necessary? No. But if you are going to do them, make them interesting. Don't just list reading and walking and socializing with friends. Add some context to it. Again, remember, context is king. Rugby, you'll always find me watching the Six Nations, and I follow Leicester Tigers. Running, I took up running in 2020, starting with the couch to 5K. You know, give it something that the reader can find useful or interesting. Okay. Is a black and white Canva based CV okay? I use black and white template. Well, yeah, it is. But again, avoid bars. I know I mentioned color, but the color bit is kind of a bit of a red herring. It's more about just an ease of layout, right? If you start introducing columns and big banners and all of that, it's just not easy to read. Keep it simple. So that's what the KIS means on here, and keep it simple. Right, a readable font and line spacing. So what do I mean by that? So this font that I'm using here is the old favorite Calibri. Okay, if I highlight this whole thing and select Arial, it's just a bit harder to read, and it's a bit less friendly, and it's a bit blocky and square, right? Whereas if I go back to Calibri, can you see it automatically kind of creates some space around the lettering, because at the same size font, or the same font point, it's actually got more air around it. And because it's got more air around it, it's easier to read. Okay, so I often use Calibri, or maybe Aptos is a sort of a fairly new one that's somewhere in between the two. That's not so bad. But generally, I use Calibri. Okay. And in terms of creating space, so you can have a CV that's laid out with your margins on narrow. That's fine. But just don't pack it all in. And I think this font size is probably 10.5 or 10 actually here. You could go to 10.5. I wouldn't bother going any bigger than that, because then you're going to kind of consume your real estate on the page. But you're certainly fine with that sort of size. And about creating line space, right? So you see it actually in between each of these lines, I've got a little bit more space. So that's because I've set them to 3 points. If I just set that to 0, you can see how bunched up it looks. And immediately it's more difficult to read, right? Whereas if I put it back to how it was, you can see how much easier it is to read. All right, so that's super important. Okay, I've had a question come up. I've worked with 12 different companies, so should I show all on my CV or last 5 years? Same type of job, places, retired now, part-time temporary job. Okay, so you probably only need to go back 10 or 15 years. Okay, probably if the last 5 years have been very similar, it's important that you're not just completely repeating the content of each job. I've seen it where people have done the same job, like a branch manager, for example, of different retail outlets, and they just put exactly the same text, the different responsibilities. You want to be focusing on, again, on the things that you've done, the things that you've achieved, the outcomes that you've delivered in those jobs, and the things that you've helped the company do. but you don't need to show all 12 different companies. If you're retired now, you perhaps you don't need to be going back 30 years or more. You could perhaps focus on the last 15 or 10 and then do something like this for the prior 5. You don't need to be going back to the 80s, right? You could just literally kind of list those jobs out there. Right, where was I? So readable font and line spacing. So the last point here, oh, well, this is what I've talked about, a linear approach. Okay, so that is not having columns. It's literally going from section to section to section, because this is how people will read a CV, right? So if I'm a hiring manager and I'm reading a CV, I'm kind of usually positioning my cursor down the middle of the page. And if you think historically, you would physically do this on a piece of paper, but I'm putting my cursor in the middle of the page, and I'm literally just kind of scanning down. So I'm seeing like IT manager, right? So, and I'm seeing some of these things, and I'm pulling out some of this IT manager, this. Okay, tick, 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 tick. Yep, technical skills. Yep. And I'm just scanning through it as quickly as this, looking at the companies that the person has worked at and the jobs they've held, and then perhaps their qualifications. And then I'm going all the way back to the top again. And it's that quick. I don't know what that was, 5, 6, maybe 10 seconds. Once I've done that, if that's interesting enough, I'll give it a proper read. But you have to make it dead easy for people to be able to skim through your CV. And if you've got columns and things all over the place, then it's going to be a challenge. Something I should mention here, and it came up in the last with the last speaker. Absolutely, UK and Ireland, 2 pages is absolutely fine. You don't need to be doing a 1-page resume style CV. 2 pages. To be honest, if it goes on to 2.5, it's not the end of the world if the quality is good. But if it's going that far, I'd just be suggesting that you look at how you tailor the CV a little bit more, and kind of what you want to be achieving here. As I've kind of got showing you here, is the most recent roles. You want more content, and as you work further back, you get it into a funnel shape effectively, so you have progressively less and less details about the roles that you had back in time. Okay, so they're the 6 ways of optimizing your CV. Okay, I don't know if there's any other questions here. So Tripti, I don't know if you want to bring any questions up. Worked as a technical manager, have 20 years experience, and my previous interview was 9 years ago. Not feeling confident about my CV. How to mix my both technical and managerial expertise in a CV. Okay, well, it kind of depends on what level you want to be going in at. If you're kind of like an IT manager, so you're still a bit hands-on technically, but you're also leading people, then you have in your CV perhaps you perhaps still want 2 sections, a core skills section here that talks about leadership, about coaching and developing people, about maybe developing strategy and plans or proposals, those sorts of things, having those in your core skills. And then in your technical skills, it might be about, managing the estate or data centers or whatever it is that you do, list out the technology. You don't want any more than like 9 items perhaps in each of these, because otherwise it becomes less core skills and more all of my skills. But you can demonstrate the mix of technical and management skills by raising that in your profile, but saying that I use phrases in my CV like, I'm a hands-on manager. Might sound quite colloquial, which it is, right? But that's fine. This is about kind of having a conversation through your CV. If you like to roll your sleeves up and get stuck into the technology, then say that. Okay, it doesn't all have to be about managing people all the time. It's helpful to have a functional rather than reverse chronological style CV to showcase transferable skills. Yeah, well, that's a view. I'm not a fan of that view, if I'm honest, because I know that actually recruiters are more likely to read a CV exactly how I've suggested. What I would suggest, if you're looking to make a career transition, actually is to find some element of your existing job or a job in your existing business that you can start to pivot and develop the skills you need to support your job transition. That way you can retain this sort of style of CV. If you're switching from hospitality to tech, how will I tailor my CV accordingly? Well, what technical skills do you have? Have you been on a course? Have you spent the last 2 years learning data analysis? You know, you can have your hospitality experience on there, but you know, you've got to kind of explain your history in some way. But you're going to need to have like a period on your CV, and maybe you show it instead of company name. Say you've gone to university for 3 years to learn technology. You can have that here in the experience section, because perhaps that's what you've been doing for that period. You need to have something up there, and maybe put it in your profile to say that you're seeking a career transition, and what work you've been doing towards achieving that, if it's a data analyst. Okay. I can see there's another question popping up. Is there a link to a copy of the CV template? And I'm really conscious of my time as well, or the time of the session, I should say. So here's a couple of links for you, a couple of QR codes. I hope your phones will work on isolating those. But the left one is so that you can find my LinkedIn profile, and I'm posting on a nearly daily basis about careers change, careers transition, CVs, interview coaching, etc., as well as the odd funny. And on the right hand side, there's a link to my CV template. Might look a little bit different to the one that I've included today, but it's actually got more information, more guidance in it as well. Okay, so I don't know, Tripti, if I've got any more time for any more questions, but perhaps not.
Yep, I would suggest or encourage all of our viewers that they can tag Phil and then ask questions. So, you know, you can actually get notified about the questions and maybe take that later manually as well. Cool. Right. And that was an amazing session. Thank you so much for the breakdown on how to, you know, optimize a CV. And when you mentioned about those dot things on the CV on how they rate their technical skills, that reminded me of an OMR sheet that we used to get on our board examination, that we had to mark everything like, you know, dotted. I'm not sure if you know, but yeah, I mean, like that reminded me of that OMR sheet that we used to get. Really, thank you so much, Phil. Once again, this will surely help many in crafting a standout resume for themselves. And we really appreciate your time. Thank you again.
My pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
Great, guys. The sessions do getting better. And so now you've understood how to work on your CV. So it's time to understand how to get through an interview, which is why I have an amazing session lined up for you now. So let's welcome our next speaker, Mr. Ciaran Barry. He's an executive career coach. Hi there. So he helps individuals achieve their dream careers with a proven 3-step framework. From pub work to a high-paying tech role, his journey has taught him that a mindset and strategy drive success. So now, let him help you all. So I won't take much of your time. Let's get started and help our job seekers get through interviews.
Thank you. So I'm going to bring up the slides. Perfect. So hey everyone, my name is Ciaran. As Tripti said, I'm an executive career coach. And for the next 20 minutes, I'm going to be bringing you through how to effectively prepare and execute an interview within the tech sector. So whether you're just starting off in your career, or you're looking to transition into tech, or just take it to the next level, you'll find beneficial strategies within my approach. Just a little bit about myself before we kick off. So as I said, I'm an executive career coach. I've been running my coaching practice for the last 3 years. Prior to that, I worked for a major tech company for 6 years. When I started in tech, I started in a very low-level job, customer service. I didn't have any qualifications or college degree, but about a year into it, I knew that I wanted more. I didn't want to stay in customer service, but I didn't know where I wanted to go or how to get there. So I went to a coach myself, and I worked with them for 3 months. And within that year, I landed a role within the company I was working with that usually required a bachelor's degree. I more than doubled my salary. And from there, my career kind of just took off. But I didn't go back to school and get a bachelor's degree or anything like that. And I was just really curious of how it happened. And I knew it had a lot to do with the coaching, with the mindset that I learned from it and how to set goals and go after it. So I decided myself to go and study coaching. And since then, I've got multiple qualifications in coaching and psychology. And I now work with professionals in the tech sector who are looking to advance in their career. So again, whether you're looking to take it to the next level, get promoted, or just transition into it. And what I'm going to be sharing with you today is strategies that I use with my clients to help them land those high-paying roles. So what we're going to touch on, we're going to look at how to prepare effectively for an interview before you even get into the interview room, how to introduce yourself with confidence, how to create strong behavioral examples using STAR approach so that you can structure your examples. And then we're going to finish off with some tips for leaving a lasting impression. So how to prepare effectively using the job description. If you're to leave here today from this presentation with just one piece of it that you have a really good understanding of, if you can leave with how to prepare, how to study the job description, how to utilize that to stand out in an interview, you'll already be far ahead of your competition when it comes to interviewing for any role. So each job description is different. So if you're coming from a similar role, let's say a role that you've done for the past 5-10 years, but you're moving looking to get into a different company and you're applying for 4 or 5 different companies, even if the role is similar, the skills, the responsibilities, the tasks, they're always going to be different in each company. So it's like a CV. It's like you can't go in with your same examples, same achievements for every single job. You need to tailor it. And the job description has a wealth of information for you to do that. So the first thing I always recommend my clients to do is identify the key responsibilities, tasks, and duties listed in the job description for the role that you're applying for. And with this, you can then begin to pick out your most recent or most relevant experience, most relevant projects, achievements, anything that's really related to the role that's going to make you stand out, that you can use when you're introducing yourself. You can base your examples around it, and it highlights throughout the whole interview that you are the right person for the role. And then you want to extract essential skills and competencies required for the role. So these are always going to be listed by HR in the job description, because the role that you're applying for requires that the person has these skills, this skill set to be successful in the role. So you'll always find these within the job description. 90% of the time, all the questions that you'll be asked in the interview will be based on those competencies. And then you want to take note of anything relating to company values or their culture. So if you're researching the company that you're applying for beforehand, you'll always find their mission statement, a bit about their company values and their culture online. But in the job description, you'll have the values and the culture and more insight into the team that you're applying for in the specific role. So again, that allows you to ask specific questions, perhaps in the interview, or share examples that align closely with what they're looking for. So then introducing yourself with confidence. So when you come to an interview, and I suppose there's an etiquette that kind of everyone follows. It's, dress neat for the interview, have open body language, friendly when you come into the interview. But what I talk about when it comes to introducing yourself with confidence is those couple of minutes at the beginning of the interview where they ask you to tell them about yourself. So they might ask you to walk through your CV or tell them a little bit about your experience. And these couple of minutes is your time to stand out. So you want to keep it really relevant to the role. So you'll already know what kind of experience they're looking for, what skills they're looking for. So perhaps your current role is super relevant. You can highlight key strengths from your current role, projects, and kind of duties that you do. If not, you want to take your most relevant experience. So perhaps you're transitioning into a different role. So it's really just about highlighting what's relevant. And then you want to express your passion for the role and interest in the company. So when it comes to the end of your introduction, tell them why you've applied for the role. Tell them why you're interested in it, why you're transitioning into it, or why you want to join the company. If you've done your research beforehand, you'll know a lot about the company. So mention that. Why have you applied? Is there something about their values or their culture or their products that you find really intriguing and why you want to work there? An additional tip that I give many of my clients, and this comes down to personal preference, you don't have to do it, but it does help you stand out, is to share an interest or a passion that's personal. So you keep it professional, but let's say you're applying for a highly technical role and outside of work, you're really into coding or something else. It's not relevant to the role per se, but it will make you stand out. You shared something personal that shows them, oh, outside of work, he's really is a tech person. He's really into this. It's his passion. It's creative outside of work. And while they might not need that skill set now, there could be aspects of it that they would need in the future, or that's not listed in the job description that just gives you that slight edge over someone else who didn't share something like that. Okay, so then when it comes to creating strong behavioral examples, this is where you're really going to come back to your job description. So you should have already listed competencies. So competencies are the skills and listed on the job description. So it could be communication skills, project management, problem solving, that are listed in the job description. And you're going to use these to prepare for examples for an interview. And when you do this correctly and effectively, there's not really any question that they can throw at you that you don't have an example for. So you might need to tweak it a bit, but you will have examples for each competency. So once you have your competencies, I recommend that you list what is needed to be successful in each competency. Now, this might sound like a lot of work, but you can throw the competencies into ChatGPT and ask them to give you a list of what's important for each competency. So if we stick with communication, to be effective in communication, you need to be able to have active listening, ask questions to understand, tailor your communication skills depending on your audience, and let's say written communication. So within your answer, you want to make sure that you're touching on each point. Now, you may be an excellent communicator and you might do it every day in your role, but you might not be consciously aware of why you're a good. So that's why you need to know what's important that you are touching on this within your example so that you can clearly demonstrate to them that you have experience, first of all, but that you are you have the skill, you're efficient in the skill that they're looking for. So then once you have that, you want to start picking your example, the example that you're going to use to demonstrate the competency. So if we stick with communication, maybe in you could probably have 5 or 6 examples daily where you demonstrate your communication skills. But you want to try and pick one that adds extra value to your answer. So let's say every day you work with your colleagues, you demonstrate, if you're in a technical role and you're working with stakeholders, you demonstrate communication. But let's say you have an example that's where you've presented to senior leadership on a new tool that you can use that's really technical, and you have to make it really easy for them to understand to get their buy-in. You can already see that one example shows more skills. So it shows presentation, it shows that you're comfortable around senior leadership. It just adds that extra value. And while it's not relevant for the competency itself, for displaying the actions that you're taking, it will make you stand out. So it needs to be relevant. It needs to be an example that allows you to demonstrate the competency. That's the most important thing. Majority of recruiters will use a scoring system when they are asking you questions. So you need to be able to answer the competency, but pick an example, your standout story that allows you to stand out. And then once you have that, you're going to start building your example for each competency around the STAR method. So the STAR method is an approach used to structure your answers. So here you've got situation, you've got task, action, and result. So for the situation and task, that's about 30% of your answer. And it's all about setting the context. So you want them to clearly understand what's going on in the situation and what's expected from you. And then you're going to spend 60% of your answer demonstrating that competency. So if you were asked a question around communication, this is where you're demonstrating your skill set of how you used your communication skills to get a result. And then 10% of your answer is tying it up. So what's the outcome? So you've set your situation, you've set your task, you told you how did you achieve that task, and then the result is all about the outcome. And what I see with many people is they're very good at setting the task and the action, but they forget the result. And while you might have taken amazing action, if you do not tell the hiring manager or the recruiter what the result was, what the outcome was of all the amazing things that you did, they don't know what the outcome was. As simple as that. You haven't created that standout answer. So you always want to make sure that you tie it up at the end. So handling tough questions with ease and composure. So no matter how much you practice for an interview or how good you are at interviews, there will always be something that will come up that you might not have been prepared for, or a question that you might not have the perfect example for, and it can throw you off a little bit. So I always say, take a deep breath in between each question. So if you're asked, if you're asked a question, you don't need to jump straight in. Take a couple of seconds. There's no harm in having a little bit of silence in the room. You want to make sure that you don't jump straight in and then you're a couple of seconds into your answer and you realize that you picked the wrong example, or you're not exactly sure where you're going with it, or it just doesn't fit the question. And that's going to completely throw you off. So always take a few seconds, take a deep breath, and then begin your answer. And if you don't understand the question, ask them to clarify it. So ask them to repeat the question, ask them if they could rephrase the question. Don't jump in if you're not sure, because you're not answering their question. And no matter how good the example is, if you're not asking the question specifically, if you're not showing the behavior that they're looking for, you will have failed on that answer. And then structure your response. So we've touched on this already with the STAR approach. So it's all about, you just really want to ensure that you have a structure for your answers, that you're not going off in a tangent, that you are keeping your answer relevant to what they're looking for, and you're only giving relevant information. And then the final point is be honest and authentic. So if you're starting off in your career, or you're transitioning into this role and you don't have a whole lot of experience, you could get asked a behavioral question where you simply don't have an example. Don't make one up. I've been in interviews, I've seen interviews where people make up questions on answers on the spot to a question that they don't know, and the hiring manager will always know. They will always pick up on it. It won't be as fluent as your other answers, and you will just begin to make things up. So it's okay to tell them, look, I don't have a specific example for that, but this is what I would do in that situation. And then when you start telling them what you would do, you might remember one or two small points or small examples where you've demonstrated a part of that competency that you can then follow up with some examples. So yes, you're not giving them a clear example for that question, but it is better than trying to waffle your way through it. And then the final piece, so leaving tips for leaving a lasting impression. So you want to be ready, depending on how technical your role is, be ready for technical assessments, coding challenges, or system design questions. Or there could be depending on your role, there could be a range of other things, assessments, culture assessments that you would need to be ready for. So if you're getting hired through a recruiter, they will often do this piece with you. But if not, you will be told in advance, but be ready for it. If they do give an inkling or tell you that there might be something like that in an interview, before or after the interview, just be ready for it. And show awareness of emerging trends. So especially around AI and everything right now, while in the job description, you'll often see a requirement for a job and you'll see desired requirements. They might mention something there that would be nice to have. Maybe you don't have it, but still be aware of anything that's related to the role or related to the company. It could be a quick Google search, could be a ChatGPT search, could be looking online. Just have an idea that you can say, oh yeah, I'm aware of this, or I know about this in the interview. One of the most important points, and one of the reasons that I leave it to the end, is research the company in depth. You should never go into an interview, any interview, without having a clear understanding of the company's products, their services, their mission, or any developments within the company, because you want to show genuine interest. The person who's genuinely interested in the role, in the company, who knows about the products, who can bring this across throughout the conversation, can bring it across at the end, they're the person that are going to get the job. Maybe depends on the examples as well, but say you do an amazing interview and another person does an amazing interview, but they know a lot more about the company and the products, they're going to stand out more. They are someone they're hungrier for the role. And then end the interview with a question. So I always get asked this: what question should I ask? How do I look intelligent? How do I look smart? Many people just ask questions for the sake of it. I like to take an approach of ask a question that's going to allow you to stand out more. That's going to reinforce your suitability for the role. So let's say if we take teamwork, collaboration, if that's mentioned a lot in the job description, it's brought up throughout the interview of something that's really important to that role, you could ask a question at the end of what's teamwork, team dynamic like, or what strategies do you use for collaboration, or something. And I'm just taking teamwork as an example. Something that then allows you to come back with a response. So you can then come in to that with an example of, you can add another example. You weren't asked that question, but you now have an opportunity to bring that into the conversation. Or if you feel like throughout the interview, there was a question you didn't answer that well, but it's really important, or they didn't ask you something that you feel is really important and you want to bring that across, you can ask a question that's related to that in some way that will allow you, when it's your turn to speak, to come back and bring it back to that and show that. So that's it from me. Thank you very much. I hope you find it helpful. I'm just going to leave some links up here. So I've got my Instagram and my LinkedIn here. I also have my website with my resources page. So I have a lot of free resources on my website around CV, interview prep, some short courses in terms of figuring out your next career move. So if all you have to do is just pop your email in and you can get access to all of those resources.
Well, that was amazing and a wonderful presentation, Ciaran. Thank you so much for your valuable tips. I'm pretty sure this will help our attendees take their next step with confidence, and especially with those tough questions that they have to face in an interview and they're not prepared for, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of times they prepare so many things, and when you're in the interview, it's boom, you get some questions you haven't heard before. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
there's always something that can come up.
Yeah, and sometimes there's questions that you've prepared and then you just forget. So it really becomes difficult to handle situations like that. But I think your tips were really, really valuable, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be helpful for all of our viewers here. Let's just take a minute to see if they have any questions, but I already see a lot of appreciation here for your tips and the insights that you've shared. Yeah, and guys, if you still have any questions, you can tag Ciaran and then ask questions so he can get notified about it and then he can answer you. Yeah.
Perfect.
Awesome. Once again, thank you so much, Ciaran. It was lovely having you today with us.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Well, guys, we do have some more couple of sessions lined up for you, and I hope all of you are getting some valuable information from this. Now that we've worked on how to communicate your strengths, work on your CV, how to get through tough questions in an interview, it's time to finally look for a job and understand how you can land a nice job. So, which is why I have our next speaker here with us, Mr. Andy Nelson, who will be guiding you on how you can find a dream job. Well, Andy is a career coach and climate advocate, guiding mid-career professionals into planet-positive careers. With over 20 years of experience in consulting and climate tech, he blends strategy and design thinking to drive career transition with clarity. Hello, Andy. How are you doing today?
I'm very well, thank you. Happy Valentine's Day for those who are.
Oh, yes. Happy Valentine's Day, all. I'm like, oof.
I know,
just went
right?
over the head and we forgot about Valentine's
We're here doing
Day.
this. That's okay. That's okay.
Yes, I mean, it's kind of Valentine's, and we're working as Cupid for the job seekers and the recruiters.
Nice.
So you know,
matchmaking.
still trying to.
Great move.
Yes, yeah, we're still in that vibe. So I don't want to take any further time of yours. Please help our job seekers how they can land a job. Yeah, the stage is all yours.
Okay. All right. Let's start with skipping all of the usual intros, because this is going to be very intense. This is going to be an entire process from start to finish to help you be more efficient in your job search. It's going to be intense, and the real value isn't right now. The real value is in what you're going to do because of right now. So as we go through this, it's a handful of slides and a lot of me doing this. Write down the thing that you're going to do differently because of it. Otherwise, we're all collectively wasting our time here. And as a massive spoiler alert, the one thing that I want you to take from this conversation is that the importance of your criteria of how you decide is the most important thing that you can spend time working on. All right, I'm going to leave that there. And with the power of foreshadowing and storytelling, I'm going to bring us back to that right towards the end. Okay, so I mentioned I'm going to skip the intro, but it is useful to know why I think you will benefit from what I've done. And the answer is business school, followed by living out of a suitcase, consulting all over the world for Unilever, Coca-Cola, Google, blah, 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 all the big names, tick, tick, tick. And then I went and did joining a startup of 4, took that through, scaled up to 150 and sold it. And that was an analytics and tech company advising similar set of clients. And then most recently, woke up and realized that the world is on fire and I wanted to do something about it, and took my tech skills into climate tech. Joined a SaaS platform, helped them with their go-to-market strategy. The reason why I tell you that is because I've seen both sides of the coin. I have employed hundreds of people, and at the same time, I've made 4 significant career jumps myself. So that balance of understanding what I am looking for when I'm trying to hire people, and the frustrations of not being able to find the thing I'm looking for, brings me to the following process. It is 3 steps, and those 3 steps are 3 questions. How to know you found what you're looking for. This is the single most important thing. Now, I have conversations with my clients and prospective clients maybe 10 to 15 times every week, and this is the first question I ask. And the reason why it's the first question I ask is because most people don't know. They start looking for jobs, they start looking for outcomes, and then they're trying to base whether they want to do it or not on job descriptions. And job descriptions are terrible at explaining what it is that the job is about. So we're going to come as to how to do this and how to clarify your criteria. And then we're going to talk about the next problem, which is how to find a job that you don't even know exists, because our cognitive availability is very small. When we think about all the things that we could do in tech, we can only think about this many. And even if we try really hard, we might be able to get to that many. And that's because, as Donald Rumsfeld famously said, we just don't know what we don't know. So we're going to give you a solution to that. And then finally, the how to get the job you want. Well, frankly, we've just heard some great advice around the mechanics the CV, the interview, and so on. But it's more than that. It's about narrowing your field to the point where it is obvious that all of your narrative to date makes you the most plausible candidate to be solving the problem that they are trying to solve. All right, now that in itself is a grand set of statements. So I've condensed that into a handy mononymic as the 3 Fs. You need to figure out your filter, fill your funnel, and find your focus. Well, wait a minute, that was 6 Fs. Okay, I'm going to change this to the 6 Fs. All right, so let's talk about the filter and the knowing what you want. The reason why this is so critical is because most people spend their time applying for this and that and this and job hunting for that. And the challenge here is, unless you are willing to spend 5 to 10 hours on one application, you will not get a job. And that's because it's a tough market right now. And if you're not willing to do that, somebody else is, because they are more sure that they want this role. So the only way that you can be clear that you're going to want this role is to understand how you will know before you've done it for 3 months. And the answer to that is there are 4 levels of criteria. And we're going to talk about the fundamentals, your strengths, your values, and self. Fundamentals is the shape of work. It's the thing that everybody can talk about when they talk about what work is. It's the big company, small company, lots of travel, little travel, lots of money, mainly. But the point is, they're easy to ask, but not always easy to answer. So write the list, put them in priority. Is it more important that you're traveling more or learning more or being paid more, or etc.? It is not exclusive, but list them in order. The next thing is your strengths. Now, by strengths, I don't mean skills. We've already done the first session around strengths, so I'm not going to go into that in much detail. I am just going to say, though, that most of your strengths, they're kind of fixed by the time you're 20. So you know you, but often you don't know the blind spots. You can't see the blind spots. So taking a test, the Strengths 2.0 finder, or having a Johari window approach, these are terms you can Google and look up. I'm not going to take our time up going into detail here, but knowing your strengths and then translating those into a job function. Would somebody who is good at this therefore be good at that? Values is a terrible term. It's a horrible term. It's been absolutely ruined by the corporate nature of work in the last 20 years because every company decided they needed a value statement. And values tests, they're kind of a little bit flawed. If you take a values test on a Monday morning in the rain before coffee and a Friday afternoon in the sunshine when it's a fantastic weekend ahead of you, you're going to get different answers, but they will overlap. And where they overlap is the bit that you recognize as the values which are important to you. And perhaps a little bit like fortune cookies, it doesn't really matter what the actual answer is, it's what you take from it. You can write them down. These things matter to me. And then my final favorite place to work is the concept of self and identity. So I come from the Jungian school of psychology. We are many selves competing for dominance, given response to stimuli, blah, blah, blah. Interesting science, Andy. If you've seen the film Inside Out, you kind of know what I'm talking about. We have all these voices going on, and some of them are useful and helpful. There is a creative you and a problem-solving you. Some of them are less helpful. There is a procrastinator, a self-saboteur, a self-doubt, a fear of change. They're all going on inside. Write them all down, listen to them, and then use them and ask them the questions. So you have a creative part of you. Well, if that's important, then you can interrogate some of these job suggestions or hypotheses for your future role using the creative side, if that's the direction that is important. And at the same time, you can listen for when your procrastinator or your self-saboteur is pecking and scratching away at your ambition. And you can negotiate to understand how to make them be quiet. Okay, that is a massive amount of work. As I said, this is being recorded. You can go over it, and you just need to pick 1 or 2 things that you can spend some time thinking about. Okay, filling the funnel. This is all well and good. We have this V-shaped funnel of criteria and filtering. The next question is, how do we fill in the funnel with hypotheses to test? A problem is, like I said at the start, is our cognitive availability. There's so many different things that we could do. And here is where it gets real in terms of the inefficiency. This is the thing that frustrates me so much. the inefficiency of sitting on your own and trying to figure this out, of spending another evening with 30 browser tabs open and no real progress. So stop doing that and get some help. So take the filter criteria that you've just worked on and written, and then make them into a job advert for you, a role advert. Take away the experience, take away the skills. You can get new experience and you can get new skills, and you can the experience is going to taint the answers, and then send it to 50 people. Post it in the job forums that you're a part of and see what comes back. The question you're asking is, what would somebody with these kind of criteria enjoy doing and be good at? Now, obviously, not everyone is going to reply to this, but you only need a few. You send it out to 50 people, you post it on a few forums, you're going to get maybe 10 answers with 3 suggestions. That's great. That's 30 new ideas. It might be that they just validate what you're already thinking. And that's fine. That's great. It might be that there are patterns or threads in there that you sort of go, maybe that's the area of tech or the problems that I like to be solving and the things that I like to be working on. There might be a role description which absolutely nails you for that is interesting. I'd be interested in finding out more. So you have this sort of outside in perspective, but at the same time, we also have the inside out perspective. And the inside out perspective is everything that you've already thought of. But again, rather than sitting and trying to write this all out yourself, you've just spent probably 10 plus years educating a highly sophisticated algorithm about your interests because you're on social media. And we're all in tech. So you know how smart and sophisticated that is. All of your unintentional needs and wants and desires, it's listening in, you're teaching the algorithm. So for the next 5 days, in the morning when you're scrolling, look at what you're being shown. It knows you better than you know you because it's not subject to the same cognitive biases you are. So write down all the things and interests that it's saying, I'm showing you this because I think you're interested in. There are clues in there. Okay, so we've got inside out, outside in. Put it into your filter with the criteria. Which of these elements, these hypotheses, are going to meet the majority of my criteria and filter? And if you're keeping up with me, you now realize there's a massive flaw because we don't know enough about some of these suggestions. Someone's just suggested it sounds interesting, but how can you make a decision or how can you use the filters if you don't know enough about the hypotheses that we're talking about? So this is where it gets even more interesting because we start talking about how to learn in the fastest possible way. Again, it is not go and sit and figure it out and do some research. The shortest possible route to find the most useful information about whether or not this is a role that you can apply for or you want to be interested in is to climb the commitment ladder. What do I mean by the commitment ladder is you need to de-risk the amount of time and the amount of effort that you're investigating. So rather than sitting and saying, right, that's it, I definitely want to be this, I now need to take a 6-month course. Start with speaking to 5 people who are already doing the thing that you're thinking of doing. Because in doing so, you're going to get a huge amount of information very quickly. And with that information, then you can start to use the filtering. But what's more important is as you climb this ladder, and it might be 5 conversations, this sounds interesting enough to take the next step, which might be a short course. And that might be enough to make you attend a 2-day conference. And that might make you confident enough to invest some time building a side project or doing a side hustle or helping someone else with a business case. Each of these steps you can use to build a breadcrumb trail of evidence that this is the right thing for you. So after your 5 conversations, you can write up what you've just learned. You can follow those 5 people on LinkedIn. You can join in their conversations in their comments. Because if this turns out to be the right thing for you, then your future colleagues, co-founders, collaborators, they're all in this group. They're all in that LinkedIn conversation. And then you will be too. You're learning with each step and you're able to leave increasingly useful breadcrumbs around why you are the right person for this particular type of work. And as you go, you do the rapid test loop. This is classic design thinking. It's build a test it, and then learn. Action beats analysis. Don't sit and try and figure it out. You cannot figure this out by figuring it out. Go and get the information. So the question for each step is, after you've done the 5 conversations and you've looked at your criteria, are you now willing to persevere or pivot from that direction, from this hypothesis? And what I've found after doing this program, this process with hundreds of people, is it's very rarely a no. It's more of a, actually, it's more around this part of this particular field, problem, role, or company that I'm interested in working in. So we sort of follow this meandering path, getting closer and closer and closer to the ideal fit for our criteria. And the key thing about that is, as you're doing this, like I said, you're building the network naturally, and you're leaving this breadcrumb trail of proof. So what does that give us? Well, this is an actionable plan. It's a fixed process. It is do this, then do that, then do this. It is not a sit and each morning decide, how am I going to get a job? I better start doing some more research online, go to the job boards, scroll through job boards, send shit in to the massive open void of nothingness. It brings you a way of being clear on what it is that you do step by step, day to day. It brings you a natural network expansion because you're taking action rather than doing research. The action is universally based around speaking to the people. You're developing the proof projects that your future colleagues, co-founders, and collaborators can see because you're leaving that breadcrumb trail. And most critically, it gives you a focused narrative. The thing about a focused narrative is that it enables you to have a clear, descriptive path that you can talk to the interviewer about. I'm married into a Greek family, and my Greek wife spends a lot of time telling me about the origins of English words. And recently, she pointed out that decide has the same origin as insecticide and homicide and pesticide. Decide means literally to cut off or to kill. And the biggest problem we face when we are job searching is figuring out what we are willing to put down in order to do the thing that we want to do. So as I said at the start, the most important thing that you can do is to be clear on the criteria that you can use to take things off the list of maybes. Because the more maybes you have on your list, the less certains you're able to chase down. I said it was going to be intense. That is a whole process of possibly weeks or months worth of work. Watch it back in slow-mo, watch it back at fast pace, but write down the thing you're going to do differently because of this. And if you want more almost daily tips, it's Valentine's Day, so I didn't post anything today, or did I? I can't remember. Then find me on LinkedIn. Always happy to help. And the right-hand side, there is a guide to that step where you're trying to find those 5 people. It's tailored a little bit more towards climate and sustainability, but the principles are the same. Okay, I'm going to take a breath and invite any questions.
Awesome. Hi, Andy.
Hi.
That was an amazing and intense session, I would say. But thank you so much for, deep diving into what goes on actually when you're looking for a job and not just click apply, click easy apply, and waiting there and thinking that you'd get an interview or get shortlisted. But actually networking plays a huge role. That's absolutely true, and I really, really agree. Seems like we have a question here. He says it's out of context, but still, let's see it. The question's so long. The answer's
That's okay, I've got it
more
right.
longer.
Technical errors rather than feeling how long I have to sit and solve it and what will happen. How to change my mindset to be more positive and sorry, can everyone else on the call see this question, or am I just currently muttering to myself?
No, we can see.
Okay, all right, okay, cool, good. Very solution rather than worrying about the problem. Specifically, there's no experience to help you in the team. Okay, this comes up a lot. Particularly around there is no experience. So there's 2 things that you can do. There is, first of all, you have experience at something. So being clear on what that is and how you can translate it. I think the last speaker was talking about Phil was asked about how do you translate hospitality into tech. It's like there is a way. What are the common threads of transferable skills? But the other part is most of the game is that persistence, that mindset of I'm going to keep going despite how hard it is. And it is hard. No, I'm not going to give you a solution that says, don't worry, it should be dead easy. It isn't. This is real work. And I find that in my line of work, there is coaching and there is mentoring. Mentoring is everything we've just talked about, right? The fixed process.
Yeah.
I've been doing this for 25 years. Here is some advice. But the coaching is, we are the problem. Everybody on this call is smart, capable, talented. We can all use Google to get 9 hot tips for CV writing or networking or anything. But it's the mindset of actually sticking to it and keeping to it. And one of the best ways to do that is to think about other times in your life where that's been the case, challenges you've overcome. And if you can't think of any, ask somebody else, because we are our own worst critic. Seriously,
Yeah.
if you need to speak to friends or family, no matter how small the win might feel, write it down and then write a list of them and then have it somewhere visible. So when you do hit that sadness of just desperation and frustration, you can say, I've done this before, look. Other people have believed in me, look. So I hope that answers the question. I'm happy to take any others. Or I could continue to talk about that for basically hours and hours, because it's right in my wheelhouse of coaching people and their behavior and helping them overcome their own barriers.
Absolutely. And I truly agree with what you said, having a positive mindset, because as long as you're not ready to accept that you can do it or help yourself or motivate yourself, I think nothing else can. So it's true. I think we have another question. Let's just view it.
Ruda, A, I also have one problem. I have web dev. I won't read it out loud. You can all read as well. Is it too much? Okay, I think what you're asking is, you've got all these different things that you could do, and you're sitting in interviews and you've got that kind of like, oh, I could do any, like, I'm not sure where it goes. I think I'm going to choose to answer this with that in mind, because for me, this feels like being a victim of what we were talking about at the start and at the end. Is if you've got, several different languages you can program in and a bit of data analysis and DevOps, then which one is the one that you want to do? And stop chasing the others. That sounds, like tough love. Sounds like that's quite a big characteristic. But find the roles using the process that we've just talked about, which are more likely to have a flavor of one of them. Now, it's useful to be able to say, I'm a tool with many different options. That's great. But that's not always what we're looking for. So pick one, pick DevOps, for example, or pick data analysis, and then home in, like write your narrative, write the, Ciaran was talking about the prep your competency questions, or prep for those specifically. And don't get distracted by trying to do all of them and then remember the answer to all of the competency questions. Find the roles which focus on one, learn your competency responses which focus on one, and then chase that down. Do not get distracted, because that whole point around giving you the focus and the resources to be able to go after something and spend 5 hours researching and making an application because other people are, that is when you will win. You can't do that if you're trying to do that for DevOps roles and for programming and for data analytics. So pick one using your own version of the criteria, the funnel criteria.
That's awesome. Thanks. I hope, Rudra, your question has been answered. And if you have any other questions, guys, like I've been mentioning before, you can tag Andy and you can ask him the questions. And I think we have another question. Let me quickly put it up there.
Ooh, that's a great question. Right, Mark, I'm speaking directly to you. Part of you is going to want to do more of multimedia, more or less than cybersecurity. It is ultimately your choice. Now, obviously, I'm a career coach, so I'm going to say things like, follow what makes you happy, and all of that kind of BS. But fundamentally, that really is actually true. And I'm sorry, that's a bit of a wishy-washy answer. So the question then is, well, how can you decide? So build your criteria, because you could do either, it sounds, from what you've just written. how do you decide is you write your criteria first. You're clear on whether this creative side or this problem solving side is the part that you want to spend the next chapter of your life doing. And use that to say, well, I'm going to evaluate. And I know this is a slightly fudgy example, but I'm going to say, let's take the problem solving. There's this problem solving part of you. Which of those two elements, those two skill sets, require problem solving on a day-to-day basis more than the other? And then go with that. And remember, this is just for the next chapter of your life. Nothing is forever. But the more you can pick one, decide, remember, cut off and kill. So you decide to kill multimedia or decide to kill whatever the other one was. It's just popped out of my head. So that you can then go after that one thing.
Cybersecurity.
Cybersecurity. That's right. That's right. So yeah, use the criteria. Focus on the criteria first, without letting the potential answers cloud that early piece of work. Ping me on LinkedIn. I'll send you an exercise that will help with that.
Great. I think we have another question. And just before that, I want to say one thing. That is, thanks to you, today I've learned a new definition of deciding.
Yeah, well.
It's like not choosing, but it's like, emitting, taking it out. So yeah, thanks.
Absolutely no problem. I shall let my partner know. Could I have somebody who's trying to translate?
Oh, we're getting a lot of questions. We have another questions as well from the same viewer.
That is also an
and
excellent
then
question.
There's like a continuity kind of a question.
Okay.
Yeah.
If we were in a one-to-one coaching environment, what I want to know a bit more about is the circle of no experience, too much experience. Is at what point are you finding this out? Are you finding this out because you're going to interviews and then not getting through to the next round? Or are you not making progress through application, et cetera, et cetera? The reason why I'm asking that is, it sounds like there is a mismatch, like you said, managing expectations, but I kind of think if the question is managing your own expectations, trying to match against job descriptions. Now, job descriptions are notoriously bad for basically writing a unicorn shopping list. You must be able to do all these sort of things and walk on water and fly to the moon twice a day. So the mismatch to job descriptions is one problem. But also, I don't know whether it's you're getting stuck there, in which case I'd say network harder, the opportunities will find you, or whether it's you're getting to interview and then you're letting it out of the bag to say, oh, actually, I've been doing this for years and I've got loads of experience, or you've got the I don't have any experience problem at interview. There's slightly different strategies for both. Again, hit me up on LinkedIn. We can get into that in more detail. And I'm saying that because I'd like to be courteous to the person who comes next, who is Amanda, I believe.
Yep. We just have like a one follow-up question from Rudra.
Sure.
So do you want to take it or you want to? Yes.
Yeah, let's do it.
Quick one.
We've got time.
And then everybody can ping you on LinkedIn.
One thing more. Okay, all right. Maybe I misunderstood the question in the first place. So so it sounds more like the roles that you're going for require all three, but you said that you can do all three. And actually the latter part of the sentence, if I remember correctly, was you saying it's hard to remember how to answer or how to hold all of that at the point of interview. Possibly this is a question for Ciaran, who's focused on the interview stage. So ping him a note as well. But I wonder whether there is a question around how you prepare and how you remember. If it's a problem in the interviews and you're getting questions about Python and then you're getting questions about DevOps and it's too much, then is it an interview question, or is it that the skills that you've got aren't quite there yet? And that maybe you should switch, like, what I was saying before, you pivot or persevere. Maybe there's a slight pivoting towards one of these in which you do have a particular strong suit. It's tricky to say from a couple of questions. Again, feel free to ask me, tag me via this platform, and I can provide perhaps a bit more context, and I can try and help out there.
Awesome. So, Andy, once again, thank you so much for joining us today. And it was a
Very
pleasure
welcome.
having you. It was a wonderful session. I'm pretty sure it has been valuable to all of our viewers. But yes, once again, thank you so much.
No
Have
problem. All right.
have a nice day.
Thank you very much. Cheerio all. Bye-bye.
Well, guys, just sit back because I just have one more session for you, which will help you to understand how you can find a job, as in, like, this is basically a platform from where you can get a job. So this is like a whole package today. The webinar is, from understanding the communication, like how to work on your strengths, and then to CV, to interviews on how to find a job. And now we have our next speaker, Mr. Aman Afsar Khan, who's gonna take us through a platform from where you can look for jobs. So this platform serves as a dedicated platform connecting both job seekers and employers. And we have Aman here, who's a talent advocate at the Higher Tech Talent, and he will take you through how the platform works. So I guess, Aman, the stage is all yours. I don't want to waste any further time of yours. Hi, Aman, are you there? I think he's stuck or something. Aman, can you hear me? Guys, am I audible? Can you comment? Can you hear me? Let me try adding him again. Let me try that. Let me see if that works. But meanwhile, I want to thank all of you for, being such an engaging and active participant in this webinar. And your participation means so much. And I really, really, truly appreciate your engagement and energy. And let's just wait for Aman if he can join us. Is it? Let me check. Okay, the audio is working fine for me. Meanwhile, let's have Andy. Maybe we could take any further questions or something. So there's an interview question. Okay, that was an interview question basically from Rudra, I guess. That's what he's mentioning, like a DSA after and situation-based questions on DevOps. Yeah.
Okay.
So guys, if you have any further questions on how to look for a job or how you can apply for jobs, I think that's where Andy can put in more,
Come on, people. This is your chance. This is
we're getting extra minutes.
Prime moment for you to get the. Maybe
Yeah.
it's this. Ask a question that you wouldn't want anyone else to know. The competition. What is it? Was it that's going to give you the edge? Talk to me. Come on, let's do this.
Yes. You can take advantage of this extra minutes that we've got.
Exactly. And in case it wasn't obvious, I did have a double shot of espresso before we started.
Let's see. Mark says, do I need a tech support? Maybe I do, or I don't know. Just a second.
I mean, if it helps, I'm not very good at singing, but I could always just do a bit of background music for you all. And I kind of say that more of a threat than a promise. So if you've got something you'd like to pop into the chat to avoid hearing my very atonal efforts, then do it. Save yourself as well as everyone else.
We are literally holding everyone here on Valentine's Day, and then they're also engaging. They're so enthused about finding a job and getting a job, right? So that's why they're all here. But I see Aman's here too. So hi, Aman. And
hi.
Thank you, Andy, for doing this and being my support.
No problem. All right, I'll double act.
Bye-bye.
Tickets available soon. Cheerio. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, Aman's here. Hi, Aman. All good?
Yeah.
We get to start?
Yeah, all good. Yeah.
Perfect. So the stage is all yours.
Yeah, sure. So let me just share my screen. Yeah. So I hope everyone enjoyed the sessions and learned many things, how you are going to present yourself in front of the companies. I'm going to present here Hire Tech Talent, a tech job focused platform, which is basically a reverse recruiting platform. And here there are many features. I will just go by my slide and explain everything. So Hire Tech Talent is a part of Tech Jobs Fair. We serve globally, but we are most active in 16 different countries. Most of them are European countries. So um, on Hire Tech Talent, job seekers, they can just create a profile. They can go through our screening round, and then their profile is presented in front of the employers. So all the employers who are on Hire Tech Talent, they can connect with these candidates. So candidate just have to create the profiles, and accordingly companies will connect with them for various kind of opportunities. Most of these opportunities are programming related. They require some technical knowledges, different kind of tools and technologies. As you can also see, most of the opportunities on Hire Tech Talent are mentioned there. They are in software engineering, data analytics, QA engineering, DevOps engineering, IT project management, front end, back end, all kind of development roles. Apart from these, there are other roles also, like designing roles, marketing focused, sales focused roles. They are less in numbers. Majority of opportunities on Hire Tech Talent are technical only. So no one has time, and people get tired writing the cover letters, applying to different job opportunities. So we also don't prefer uploading the resumes and cover letters and customizing based on different opportunities. So on Hire Tech Talent, you can just complete your profile once, answer some simple questions, and companies will know who you are, what are your strongest skills, what kind of opportunities you are looking for, and any information that you want to provide to the company, they will know it through your Hire Tech Talent profile. And so on the traditional job boards, you have to apply to multiple jobs. Um I have encountered with some talents who apply to more than 100 of job opportunities, still hear nothing. So on Hire Tech Talent, your time won't be wasted applying in the job opportunities, or customizing your profile. You create your profile once it is made live, you don't have to do anything. Now companies are going to connect with you. So there were some hiring problems that we have captured in these three words, that there were lack of transparency between the technical companies and the talent based on the salary range, or there are technical misunderstanding due to the job descriptions. So candidates are not able to understand what they are going to do. So this caused some kind of misunderstanding, and then they are not able to present themselves effectively in front of the employers. So on Hire Tech Talent, we have reduced these problems, and we whenever any position gets live, employers also tell what they are looking for. And any candidate who registers on Hire Tech Talent, we pre-screen them. So before making their profile live, we pre-screen that everything an employer wants to know is on their profile or not. So then we make their profile, approve, and then companies apply to these candidates. So we take these personal interviews, and we assess the skills as well. So here companies can find the right candidate for themselves, and candidate can find the right opportunities. So before applying, companies will send you the job invitation. Before sending you the job invitation, they will know who you are and everything related to you. So your time won't be wasted, and any company who is going to connect with you, they are really interested in hiring you. So how the process of Hire Tech Talent works, I will go. You just have to create your profile. Once you have created and completed your profile, it will go through the screening process by the team of our talent advocates. So they will go through your profile. They will check every detail is there or not, and what things, how you can improvise your profile. They will guide you for these things, and then your profile will be made live to the companies who are associated with higher tech talent. After your profile is made live, companies are going to candidates they find fit for their requirements. And then they will conduct the interviews, release the offer, and candidates can accept the offer and get onboarded. How higher tech talent is different from other job platforms. And so I will just go one by one. So on the other job boards, most of the job platforms, they work like a job listing platform where companies publish about their requirements, and then candidates apply to those positions. uh, so candidates have to apply to multiple jobs at a time, when they are looking for job opportunities. And companies also receive thousands of resumes in this process. So it makes their tasks tough. To go through 1,000 profiles, it is very tough for them. Higher Tech Talent works as a reverse recruiting platform. So here, jobs are not published, you can say. Here, only the talent's profile are live, and companies apply to the candidates. So here, candidates don't apply; companies apply first to the candidates. Now, based on different position, you don't have to customize your profile. Your profile is already live. Companies will apply to you, and because your profile is already there, so you just have to keep your profile updated. You don't have to upload your cover letters, your CV, or something like that. Your profile is enough. On Higher Tech Talent, whenever any company sends you the job invitation, it means they are strongly interested in your profile. They want to hire you. So you are not going to get any irrelevant calls or invitations for interviews. uh, Companies are just going to send you invitation. They are interested in you. Now you have to present yourself in such a way that you are fit for their requirements. You have to show your best and get the opportunity from them. So here, yeah, here, the hiring process is very effective. If any company takes your interview within 72 hours, you get the feedback. So the process is very quick, and yeah, you just have to create a profile, complete it, get screened, and I start getting the interview invitations from the companies. So thank you everyone for bearing with me. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comment box, or you can also reach out to us on support@highertechtalent.com.
Great, Aman. Thank you so much. And guys, like Aman mentioned, now you know how important it is to create your profile 100% on Higher Tech Talent platform for the job search. So I would recommend you all to create your profile, complete it to 100%, and start your job search, right? Let's see. Let's just wait for a minute if we have any questions. Otherwise, we can continue. Once again, Aman, thank you so much for your time and your patience. And it was lovely having you with us today. And thank you so much for taking us through the platform.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Well, guys, that's a wrap. A huge thank you to all of you for being such an amazing audience. Your energy and engagement made these sessions, like I mentioned before, truly special. So, wishing you all the very best in your journey ahead. And I can't wait to see you all again in our next webinar. So, until then, take care and stay inspired and have a lovely rest of your day. Also, Happy Valentine's Day.